So what did we just do?
We were just at a nonprofit in West Dallas who caters to a low-income community. So we were there educating them on their tenant rights.
Yeah, and what are we doing next week?
We are going to talk to the same group of people, but gear it more towards landowners and property owners, and we are going to teach them and tell them how to dispute their tax appraisal from the city.
So we're focusing on some tax stuff and then property owner rights. So I know one of the issues that they have at this nonprofit, along with a lot of their members, is the fact that they'll inherit property and then not transfer the title. And they don't know what to do in those situations, and it's really expensive to hire an attorney. So Lindsay is here to talk about that process, because it's actually not that hard, right?
No, it's not. It's super easy.
No. Cool. Well, we're excited. I mean, why are we doing this, Lindsay?
The reason that we are doing this really is because we definitely want to educate individuals on not only real estate, but also tax, both on the landlord-tenant side, property ownership side, residential, commercial. It's such a massive universe when it comes to real estate and real estate tax that we really want to educate people out there to help people make more money and keep them from getting sued, really.
Yeah. I mean, we've been studying this stuff for a little while. We love it. And the more entrenched we get, I mean, it never ends. Like, that's why I love it, right? It's always more to learn. But then what you start realizing is, okay, how is anybody supposed to know this? Especially people who, it's really expensive. Then once we've studied all this material, you have to charge a certain amount when you're working with private clients. So we're trying to give back and trying to give the information to people and give them essentially the power to then make sure they don't get taken advantage of by people. So that's part of the mission. And
absolutely. And it really, I mean, it comes with experience. There's things that you can only learn by going to court and just seeing these bizarre situations unfold in front of your face. And so many things that you can learn from it that you can't learn from Google or a textbook or something like that. And so we're also sharing our experiences that we've had over the years.
I know, which I love, because what I will say is, so I've always had real estate. I love it. Landlord, it's just one of my favorite things to do. Family's been in it for a while, but my focus has always been tax. So my focus is tax law. I've been focused on tax law. And then I paid attention to all the real estate stuff, but exactly, like, even though I'm an attorney, it's so hard for me to go figure out, okay, which law applies. Or I can go ask you, and then you're like, oh, let me give you an example of exactly what happened and how that resolves in court.
Not only that, but the law will say one thing, but then what courts do, what juries do, may be completely in left field. You just never know. And so knowing a court will typically enforce this, or a court will usually see your actions as good or bad or something like that. That's something that you can't find on Google. That's something you can't find just by opening the Texas Property Code.
Yep. Yeah, and so as a landlord, there's things like security deposit. How itemized does my detail list have to be? And then what if my tenant disagrees? And so a lot of these things, a lot of people, I know for me even, hiring other attorneys are really expensive. The last thing you want to do is hire an attorney to find out that you have no case, or the opposite, that you're thinking, oh, well, that other person's right because that's common sense and that makes sense to me. And then the opposite, you actually have a really huge remedy under the law. And we find that both of those situations are the case. And that's why I love asking all of my real estate questions to Lindsay here.
And an example of that is the group that we just spoke to had no idea that if a landlord wrongfully withholds your security deposit, you're entitled to 3 times that security deposit. So if you pay $1,000 security deposit and the landlord wrongfully withholds it, then you are now entitled to $3,000 as opposed to $1,000, which is something both landlords, this landlord right here, and tenants didn't know.
Well, it helps, because I think, so me as a landlord today, I think, wow, you have to be extra careful, because then I know if I'm not doing this very specific itemized list and being very, very careful about the communications, I have exposure as a landlord. But then this also takes me back to when I lived in Los Angeles, and of course the apartment kept our money for all these, ridiculous itemized, they cleaned the ceilings, and they were like 50-foot ceilings. And I was like, okay, that's not, we didn't do anything to those ceilings, so they should absolutely not have done that. And I had no clue how straightforward it was to actually just protest it.
Not only that, but because, at least in Texas, as a tenant, you have to request your security deposit back. A lot of these companies, instead of sending it to you, they are gonna hold on to your security deposit until they hear from you and until you request it. And so a lot of tenants will just assume that, oh, the landlord will send it back to me. They forget that they even paid a security deposit in the first place, and they just move on with their lives, and the landlord's kept their security deposit. A lot of commercial properties will operate. When I say commercial properties, a lot of commercial entities that own
Apartment complexes,
Yes, that own residential properties will operate that way.
Yeah, I didn't even think about when you were saying the whole forwarding address thing, because normally I do think it's standard. I remember when I moved out of one of my apartments, they asked my forwarding address, but I'm thinking, what if they hadn't asked me?
Right.
They probably wouldn't have had to send me anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because you, as the tenant, it's your responsibility to send your forwarding address to get your security deposit.
That's so
back,
crazy. And I was moving out of state, which I feel like a lot of times happens. The only reason I was renting is because I was completely out of state.
Yep.
Man, I don't know. I love this stuff. I learn new stuff from Lindsay every day. But I guess it's like mutual,
but
right?
I'm always learning tax stuff from you, so.
It's like we love the overlap, and then I love it. This is so fun.
No, it's great. There's an infinite amount of information to learn, so.
Yeah, awesome.